You're just my cover. This ends when I say. That was the rule. Spoken with ice in his voice and steel in his eyes, and Sienna Brooks knew better than to argue. She nodded, because silence was safer. Always had been. But in the back of her mind, something twisted. Not from fear. From recognition. Because she could spot a lie, especially when it came from a man who never blinked. Thank you for being here. If you're hooked already, hit subscribe and drop your location below. Tomorrow's story will completely shatter your expectations. 2 weeks earlier, Sienna was waitressing in a downtown bar that reeked of cigar smoke and broken promises. The kind of place men in expensive suits pretended not to notice women like her. And she was fine with that. Invisible was easy. Until he walked in. Dario Vascari didn't belong there. The minute he crossed the threshold, the room shifted. Every glance turned sharp. Every whisper died in the air. She could feel his presence like a cut clean, cold, and deep. He didn't look at her. Not at first. He sat at the back table, alone, drinking nothing, watching everything. She avoided his eyes, served him water, thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. A black car was waiting outside her building that night. A man in a suit she didn't recognize said her name. Not Miss Brooks, just Sienna. She should have run. But she didn't. Because she had no one left to call. No place to hide. And if someone knew who she really was behind the new name, behind the sealed file, they probably already knew more than she wanted. So she got in. The car took her to the penthouse floor of a building where no one knocked. There were guards in the hallway, but they didn't speak. Didn't look. Inside, he was waiting. Dario Vascari. No tie. No jacket, just black slacks and a dark shirt rolled at the sleeves. And those eyes flat, unreadable, patient like a predator. He didn't ask her to sit. He didn't offer water. He just said, I need a woman who knows how to keep quiet. You're clean. You're broke. You've disappeared before. That makes you perfect. She stared. For what? An engagement. That made her laugh short, bitter, sharp. You're joking. No. His voice never changed. You'll wear the ring. Live here. Smile in pictures. Make it look real. Why me? He stepped closer, slow and deliberate. Because I don't need someone who wants the spotlight. I need someone who knows how to stay in the dark. Sienna's mouth went dry. And what do I get out of it? He named a number. High enough to make her chest tighten. Enough to pay off the debt from her mother's hospital bills. Enough to leave and disappear again. Still, she hesitated. What happens when it's over? His jaw flexed. It ends when I say. Silence hung between them. Then she nodded. Fine. He stepped back, pulled a velvet box from his pocket and flipped it open. The ring inside sparkled like betrayal. Try it on. The first few days were simple. She moved in, memorized a few things about his favorite food, his schedule, his company, posed for a few photos, kissed his cheek when cameras flashed. He barely spoke to her outside of rehearsed appearances. No touching, no smiling, no mistakes. But he watched her. And she felt it. Every time she crossed the room. Every time she brushed her hair back or pressed a coffee cup to her lips. Eyes like steel. Still, he didn't act on it. Not yet. One night, she caught him on the balcony. Shirt open, sleeves rolled, cigarette between his fingers, but unlit. The city glowed behind him, gold and distant. She stepped outside, barefoot. Do I have to pretend to like you when no one's around? He didn't turn. Do you? No, she said. But I thought you might be the type who expects it anyway. Finally, he looked at her. I don't expect anything. She laughed, dry and quiet. That's the biggest lie I've heard this week. His jaw clenched. But he didn't argue. Just crushed the cigarette between his fingers and walked past her close enough for her to feel the tension ripple off his skin. The next morning, a box showed up outside her room. Inside, a red dress. No note. She held it up, frowned. Slit too high. Back too bare. She wore it anyway. That night, they attended a private charity event. Cameras flashing. Champagne flowing. Powerful people watching. And Dario's hand stayed on her waist the entire time. Possessive. Public. Perfect. She leaned in, whispered, "Is this part of the act?" His voice brushed her ear. "Does it feel like it?" She didn't answer. But her heart did, loud and reckless in her chest. After midnight, they returned to the penthouse. She slipped off her heels at the door, barefoot on the marble floor. Tension crackled between them like static. He moved to walk past her. She stopped him. "Why me, really?" He studied her for a long moment. "Because you already know how to disappear. That means you'll understand when I need you to stay hidden." "That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting tonight." He walked away. She stood in the dark, hand clenched at her side, heat crawling up her neck. This was a mistake. But it was already too late to back out. Because now she wasn't sure if she was pretending anymore. And worse? She didn't think he was either. Silence had a weight in Dario Vescari's penthouse. Not the kind that came from absence but from control. Everything in the space was curated: black marble floors, gold accents, cold lighting that cast sharp lines on every surface. No clutter, no comfort, no warmth. Just like the man who owned it. Sienna had been living there for 4 days, and already she could feel her instincts stretching thin. Everything about the space made her feel on display, like one wrong breath might trip some invisible wire. He didn't speak to her much. Only what was necessary. A nod when the car was ready. A single yes when the stylists asked if she could wear red. One text message. "Be ready at 8. Wear the black dress." Not a single question about her life, her past, her fear, which made her trust him even less. Sienna wandered the penthouse like a ghost, careful not to disturb anything. There was a guest room she'd been told to use, stocked with high-end essentials and a closet that looked suspiciously curated for her size. She wondered if he had guessed her measurements, or if he'd had someone find them out. The bedroom was clean, too clean. No photos. No personal items. She was starting to think Dario Vescari didn't live anywhere. He simply existed like a shadow that moved through power and didn't leave fingerprints. But there were signs if you looked close enough. A glass left half full in the library. Scotch bottles organized not by brand, but by memory, each one opened only once. A piano in the corner, untouched but dustless. Someone wiped it every day, but no one played. That night, she passed the cracked door to his office. He was inside, leaning over a desk, phone pressed to his ear, voice low and deadly. "I said move the shipment, not reroute. If you get seen again, I won't send another warning." Pause. "Next time, I'll send someone to collect your hands." Click. He looked up, met her eyes. Didn't blink. "Eavesdropping, Miss Brooks?" Door was open. "That's not an answer." She shrugged. "Maybe I wanted to see what a fake fiancé is really marrying into." He stood. Smooth. Lethal. Don't mistake silence for stupidity. You stay alive because I let you. And you stay clean because I pretend to love you. That stopped him. His lips curled slightly, not into a smile, but something close. "You're sharper than you look. You're colder than you pretend." They stared at each other. The air between them practically electric. And then, he turned back to his desk. "Dinner is at 7. Don't be late." She sat at the dining table with a straight back and a tighter throat. The table stretched long, set for 10, but only 2 plates sat ready. Dario entered exactly on time, not a second before or after. No tie, no jacket, just crisp sleeves and a watch more expensive than anything she'd ever owned. He sat across from her, didn't speak, didn't look, just started eating. Halfway through, he broke the silence. The press wants an interview. With me? With us. Together. And what am I supposed to say? Nothing. You'll sit, smile, touch my hand like it means something. You're used to that. He didn't look up. I'm used to control. Sienna leaned forward. And what happens if I say something wrong? He looked at her now, slow and sharp. You won't. It wasn't a threat. It was a promise. A razor wrapped in velvet. She dropped her fork. This wasn't part of the deal. Neither was that attitude. She stood. You wanted a cover, Dario. Not a puppet. You don't get to walk away. I'm not walking. I'm warning. Of what? She leaned in close, lowering her voice to a whisper. You're not the only one here hiding something. Then she turned and walked away, heart thudding like war drums in her chest. Later that night, she woke up in a sweat. Not from fear, from memory. A dark alley, a broken promise. Blood on her hands that wasn't hers. She pressed her palm against her chest, trying to calm herself. That's when she noticed it. A light flickering under her bedroom door. She stood. Barefoot. Quiet. Opened it a crack. He was in the hallway. Just standing there. Shirtless. Silent. Watching her door. She stepped out slowly. Can't sleep either? He didn't answer. His eyes moved down her body, t-shirt, bare legs, vulnerable skin, and then back to her face. You cried out, he said. She blinked. You heard that. He didn't answer. Just looked at her a second longer than necessary. Go back to sleep, Sienna. You're not my keeper. No, he said, voice colder. I'm your cover. He walked away. But she didn't miss it. The way his hands shook at his sides. The next morning, a new dress waited for her again. Emerald green. Silk. Off-shoulder. No note, but a message all the same. That night, he drove her to a private restaurant. Photographers outside, lights flashing like explosions. She held his arm, laughed at his shoulder, tilted her head like she was drunk on love. He played his role too well, until they were alone. Then the mask slipped. In the car, she pulled her hand from his. He grabbed it back. The cameras are gone. Doesn't matter. Why? He stared at her like a man who'd forgotten how to blink. Because I don't like people touching what's mine. I'm not yours. He didn't answer. Didn't have to. His silence said enough. And for the first time, Sienna realized the truth. She might have agreed to be a cover. But he'd already decided she was more. The gala was hosted in a glass castle. That's what it felt like. Anyway, towers of windows stacked into the sky, reflecting city lights like stars had crashed into the skyline. The crowd was glittering, champagne flowed like water, and every man there wore his power like a second skin. Sienna stood on Dario Vescari's arm in an emerald dress worth more than her college tuition, wearing diamonds she hadn't earned and secrets she never meant to keep. They entered to flashing lights and whispers. That's him, Vescari. Who's the woman? She's new. Gorgeous. Smart move, he always keeps his cards close. Dario said nothing. He didn't need to. His silence was power, and his hand never left her back. But Sienna felt like she was drowning in silk and lies. You'll smile. Say nothing. Let me do the talking. Dario had warned in the car. But he hadn't accounted for Congressman Eldridge. The man cornered her near the bar with a toothy smile and vodka breath. So, Miss Brooks? How long have you and Dario been playing house? She smiled politely. A few months. Must be hard, dating a man with such a complicated reputation. Her smile faltered. Depends on how much you know about complications, Congressman. Oh, I know plenty. She glanced at his glass. I'll bet your liver does too. The smile on his face flickered. Feisty, he said, for someone with a sealed juvenile file. Her breath caught. I'm sorry. Relax. We all have ghosts, sweetheart. Some of us just hide them better. Before she could reply, Dario was there. He didn't speak, just stepped between them and stared. Eldridge raised his hands and smiled. No harm meant. Just making conversation. He vanished like smoke. Sienna's pulse thundered in her ears. Dario turned to her. What did you say to him? Nothing. He came to me. What did you say? She looked at him cold, distant, eyes like razors. I held my own. Isn't that what you wanted? He stared at her like he didn't know what to believe. Which was fair because neither did she. They left the gala early. The ride home was silent, but heavy. His fingers tapped on his knee, and she felt the storm brewing. By the time they reached the penthouse, it broke. What haven't you told me? He asked, as the door shut behind them. You first, she shot back. You think I haven't noticed the late-night calls? The names you don't want me to hear? The codes in the safe you don't think I see? Those are my sins. I'm not pretending to be clean. Neither am I. His eyes narrowed. Who are you really, Sienna? She folded her arms, backing away a step. Do you really want to know? Or do you just want something to hold over me? Silence. Then, both. She paced, then turned. I was 17. My name was different. There was a man who wouldn't take no for an answer. Dario said nothing. One night, he followed me into the alley behind our apartment. My mom was sick. I was tired. And I was done being afraid. What happened? He didn't get back up. Dario's jaw tightened. You killed him? I broke his jaw. I think he cracked his skull when he hit the pavement. I don't remember. It all blurs. The record was sealed? My mom begged the court, said I was a child trying to protect myself. They offered a deal plead to aggravated assault, agree to counseling. New name, new start. And you disappeared. Until you found me. She exhaled, finally looking him in the eye. So tell me again, Dario. Why me? He walked past her, picked up a file from the counter, tossed it onto the table between them. Her sealed juvenile file. Her real name, Lena Sienna Reyes. I knew the day I picked you. Her stomach dropped. You said I was random. I lied. Why? He stepped closer, voice lower now. Because I didn't need someone innocent. I needed someone invisible, but not weak, someone who could keep up. Someone who understood what it meant to be erased. Her throat tightened. So this whole thing was never just about looking clean. It was control. It was strategy, he corrected. Until you started watching me like you saw through me. Until you made me forget it was fake. He reached for her. She pulled away. Don't. Sienna. You don't get to play both sides. You can't use me and protect me. That's not love. That's possession. Then maybe I don't want love, he growled. Then maybe I don't want you. She stormed to her room, slammed the door, and pressed her back to it, shaking. She should run. Right now. He wasn't just dangerous, he was calculated. He had known everything from the start. Her past, her pain, her pattern. And he still chose her. Not for who she was, but for what she could be used for. She packed a bag. Her hands trembled. Then she paused, staring at her reflection in the mirror. Her face painted in high-end makeup, hair curled to perfection, a body dressed in silk and regret. She didn't look like the girl who fought for her life in an alley. She looked like someone else's creation. She cracked the door open. The penthouse was dark, empty. A bottle of scotch half poured on the counter. A single tumbler, a lit cigarette burning itself to ash. And a note, folded once. Her name on the front. Inside. "This ends when I say." And I'm not finished. Her pulse stuttered. Because, for the first time, she believed him. He wasn't finished. And neither was she. The next time she saw him, it wasn't in the penthouse. It was at a charity auction hosted by one of the 5 major families, the kind of gathering where everyone smiled too much and whispered too low. Where men like Dario Viscari walked through crowds like kings, and women were either trophies or bait. Sienna stood beside him in a black velvet dress, neckline dangerous, heels unforgiving. Her makeup was flawless, her mask even more so. She didn't speak to him on the drive there. He didn't force it. But the silence between them had changed. It wasn't cold anymore. It was volatile. The auction was a blur of art pieces, fake laughter, and million-dollar checkbooks. Sienna sipped champagne she didn't want, smiled at people she didn't trust, and tried to pretend her heart wasn't thudding every time Dario placed a hand on her back. He was playing his role too well. Or not well enough. Because the grip on her waist wasn't for show anymore. It lingered. Tightened. Possessive. She wandered away to get some air, stepping outside to the balcony. The noise faded. City lights pulsed below. Her skin felt too hot. She closed her eyes. Took a breath. "You shouldn't walk off alone," Dario said behind her. She turned slowly. "You said I wasn't your responsibility." "I didn't say that." "No," she bit out. "You just made it clear I was a tool. Strategy. Someone to pose with while the feds watched." He stepped closer. "You think I'd put anyone on my arm? You think I'd let just anyone walk into my life like this? Don't flatter me. I didn't walk into your life. You hunted me." His jaw clenched. "I picked you for a reason." "Yeah, because I was invisible." "No." He paused. "Because you were unforgettable." That silenced her. The music drifted from inside, muffled and meaningless now. She looked away. Regret buzzed behind her eyes like static. "This isn't what I signed up for, Dario." He stepped into her space, voice low. "Neither did I." Then his hand was on her neck. Not hard, just enough to tilt her chin up. And he kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't planned. It was raw, hungry, possessive. The kind of kiss that tasted like risk and power and something far too dangerous to ever be safe. Her hand pressed against his chest, but she didn't push. She pulled. He broke the kiss first, barely breathing. "Tell me to stop." She didn't. He leaned in again. And she slapped him. Hard. His head snapped to the side. She trembled. Her voice was hoarse. "Don't confuse possession with affection. You don't own me." He turned back, lip bleeding, eyes darker than she'd ever seen. "Then don't act like you belong to someone else." They left the event without another word. The silence was louder than any argument. Back at the penthouse, Sienna stormed toward her room. He didn't follow. Good. Because she didn't know what she'd do if he did. She stood in front of the mirror, staring at her own reflection. Lipstick smeared. Neck flushed. Chest heaving. And beneath all that, a spark in her eyes she hadn't seen in years. A fire that terrified her. Because she wasn't just angry. She wanted him. The next morning, there was distance. Not tension, just avoidance. He ate in the library. She stayed in the garden terrace. They didn't speak until evening. That's when Luca, one of Dario's inner circle, showed up with bruised knuckles and bad news. Rafael de Luca tried to follow her home after the gala. He muttered. Sienna froze. Who? Luca looked at Dario. You want me to explain? Dario nodded once. Luca turned to her. De Luca's arrival. He was at the auction. He tried to intercept your car afterward. Got blocked by our driver. But next time, he'll aim lower, Dario said coldly. He thought I was alone, Sienna whispered. He thought you were unclaimed, Dario corrected. His voice was dangerous now. That's why you kissed me, she realized. In front of everyone. It wasn't about me, it was about them. Everything I do is about protecting what's mine. I'm not yours. Dario stepped forward, gaze locked on hers. Maybe not by choice, but by consequence. She folded her arms. You broke your rule. So did you. That night, he didn't sleep. Neither did she. He stood in the hallway for a while, long enough for her to sense his shadow beneath the crack of her door. But he didn't knock, didn't enter, just stood there, like a man fighting his own obsession. The following morning, she found an envelope on her dresser. Inside, a plain ticket, her name, a different city, a blank check. No note, just silence. She stared at it for a long time. An exit. A way out. She could take it. Disappear. Start over. Again. And yet, her fingers didn't move. Because the truth was simple now. She didn't want to run. She wanted to know what happened when the mask finally fell off the devil. And whether he would burn everything. Or beg her to stay. It didn't happen the way either of them expected. No pretense. No cameras. No games. Just two people who had lied to each other so well. They didn't realize when the truth finally started spilling. It was raining. Heavy. Summer rain that blurred the city skyline and softened the usually sharp edge of Dario's penthouse windows. Thunder cracked above them like warning shots. Sienna stood barefoot in the kitchen, hoodie too big, sipping tea she didn't really want. Dario entered, no jacket, hair damp from his rooftop walk. He didn't look at her right away. She didn't speak. She was done speaking first. He poured himself a drink, didn't sip it. Just held the glass, swirling the amber liquid like it had the answers he was missing. You didn't take the ticket, he said. You didn't leave a reason, she replied. You didn't need one. She finally looked at him. That's where you're wrong. The silence stretched. Long enough that when he stepped forward, the air thickened between them. He stopped inches away, looking down at her like he was trying to memorize the shape of her defiance. Why are you still here? He asked. Because for all your rules, she whispered. You never asked me what I wanted. And what do you want, Sienna? Right now? She took his glass from his hand, set it on the counter, stepped into him. To see what happens when you stop pretending. The kiss wasn't soft. It was violent in its need, messy, real, hands on skin that had been off limits for too long. She pressed against him. He lifted her onto the counter. Their breath tangled. His hands found her hips. Hers found the back of his neck. He growled her name like it hurt to say. You're dangerous, he whispered. So are you, she shot back. That's what scares me. They didn't make it to the bedroom. The hallway, the wall, the floor. It didn't matter. All that mattered was that the mask was off. And what lay beneath it was terrifyingly human. She woke up hours later, tangled in his sheets, the scent of him on her skin, the imprint of his body still fresh in her bones. Dario stood at the edge of the bed, dressed already. Cold again. Withdrawn. Is this the part where you pretend it didn't happen? She asked, voice groggy. He didn't meet her eyes. This complicates everything. It was already complicated. No, he said. Before, you were the lie I told to the world. Now, I don't know what you are. That hit her like a slap. She sat up, pulling the sheet tighter. So, I'm a problem now? You're a liability. She laughed, sharp and bitter. I didn't ask to be here, Dario. You brought me into this. You picked me, you lied to me. And you lied to me. He stepped forward, voice like steel. You kept your past buried. You played innocent. You knew how to survive. And you liked that, she snapped. I needed that. And now? Silence. She shook her head. I was supposed to be nothing to you. Just a cover. A shield, something replaceable. She stood, walked past him to the window, thunder rumbling in the distance. But now I'm too much, aren't I? He didn't deny it. She turned to him, eyes sharp, heartbroken. Then let me save you the trouble. She walked back to the bedroom, threw on clothes, grabbed her bag. I'm done pretending. You can't leave, he said, suddenly in front of her. Watch me. The deal's not over. It is for me. It ends when I say, he growled. Her eyes met his. Then say it. His jaw tensed. His eyes flickered with something like panic. But he didn't say it. He couldn't. And that silence was her answer. She left. The rain swallowed her whole. It hit like needles, soaking through fabric and fear. She didn't have a destination, didn't want one. She just needed space. Distance. Breath. But the city wasn't built for escape. Not when Dario Vescari had threads in every corner. She slipped into a train station, stood on the platform. And for the first time in years, she cried. Not because of what he'd done, but because of what he hadn't. He hadn't stopped her. He hadn't chosen her. He hadn't said it. She got on the train. 1 stop. 2. 5. She didn't even know where she was when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. You're not safe. Her stomach dropped. A second message followed. They know who you are. Sienna's hand trembled. And suddenly, she wasn't sure who they meant anymore. Dario's enemies? The feds? The ghosts from her past? Whoever it was, she knew one thing. She had just crossed the line. And this time, there might not be a way back. Sienna had only one place left to go. Not a safe house. Not a friend's apartment. Those didn't exist for girls like her. But there was someone, a name she hadn't spoken in years, a voice from the past that had surfaced again with a single text. They know who you are. It was signed with a letter. Just one. J. She found him in a rundown motel off Route 6. Same sharp eyes. Same coiled stance. Jackson Briggs. The boy who knew her before she became Sienna Brooks. Before the name change, the sealed record. The blood on her hands. He looked at her now with a mix of relief and regret. You shouldn't have come, he muttered. Then why did you text me? Because I figured if they were digging, you'd already be halfway buried. She crossed her arms. Who's they? Dario's people. And the ones he's fighting. Her stomach turned. You're watching him? No, he said. I'm watching you. They sat on the edge of the bed. A lamp buzzed overhead. Rain ticked against the windows like a slow countdown. Why now? She asked. Because the more visible you get on his arm, the more heat you're drawing. The feds are sniffing around again. And his rivals DeLuca, Esposito. They think you're leverage. I'm not. They don't know that. And Dario? Jackson hesitated. He thinks you're about to flip. Her chest tightened. I'm not. Doesn't matter. He's paranoid. Always has been. He trusts me. No, Sienna. He wants to trust you. That's worse. She stood. This was a mistake. No, Jackson said, rising too. You just don't know how deep you are. But I do. I can handle myself. Not when you're sleeping with the devil and expecting him to grow a conscience. She slapped him. Not hard, but sharp enough to make him blink. Don't confuse Dario with every man who ever used me, she said. Then don't confuse obsession with protection. She left before she could change her mind. But outside the motel, headlights flicked on, and the world went cold. Black SUV. Bulletproof glass. Tires too quiet for rain-slick streets. Her heart stopped. The back window rolled down. Dario. His expression wasn't anger. It was betrayal carved into marble. Get in, he said. She hesitated, then obeyed. Because she wasn't stupid. And because something in his voice said, this isn't over. The doors locked behind her. He didn't speak as the car pulled off. She broke the silence first. You followed me. You left me. I needed answers. From him? He's from before. Before you. He turned to her, eyes like storms. So you do have another life. Don't we all? He didn't answer. Just leaned forward, whispered something to his driver. The divider rolled up. They were alone. I've killed men for less than what you just did, he said softly. Then maybe you should. Don't tempt me, Sienna. What do you want from me, Dario? Submission? Silence? I gave you everything I had. And then you gave it to someone else. No, she said, voice shaking. I went to someone who knew me, before this. Before you. Because I needed to remember who I was. He looked at her for a long time. You're lying. I'm not. You're hiding something. I'm surviving something. The car stopped. The door opened. She stepped out onto the penthouse's private garage floor. He followed. Neither spoke. Not until they were in the elevator. Not until the silence cracked like thunder. You think I'm the villain, he said. You are. Then why are you still here? Because even villains get hurt. She turned to him. You want to know the truth? I wasn't trying to sell you out. I was trying to figure out if I even exist anymore outside of you. And what did you find? I don't know yet. Back in the penthouse, she moved toward her room. He grabbed her wrist. Don't go. Why not? Because I need you to hate me less than I hate myself right now. She blinked. The words carved into her. Then stop making it so easy. She yanked free. The door slammed behind her. An hour passed. Then 2. Then her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. He's not your enemy, but his enemies think you are. Leave tonight. Or bleed for it. Her blood ran cold. She stared at the screen. Then at the door. Then at the knife in her nightstand drawer. She wasn't afraid to run. She was afraid to stay. But this time, she wasn't sure which was more dangerous. The air shifted just before it happened. It always did. That subtle crackle, like the atmosphere knew something was wrong before the body did. Sienna stepped out of the penthouse's private elevator, hoodie on, phone in hand, heart racing. She wasn't running. Not yet. She just needed to think, to breathe, to get away before she said something she couldn't take back. But they were already waiting. The alley outside the building was quiet, too quiet. She made it 3 steps before the van door slid open. She turned too late. A cloth covered her mouth. The scent hit her brain like fire. Her knees buckled. The last thing she heard before the world went dark. She's in. Go, now. Back in the penthouse, Dario knew something was wrong the moment her room was empty. The sheets untouched. Her jacket missing, Phone still pinging inside the apartment, forgotten on the counter. He stared at the silent device. Then the panic hit. And with it, the rage. Luca burst through the door within 10 minutes. Security says she left on foot. No one followed. Bullshit. Dario grabbed his coat. Pull traffic cam footage. Get every street feed from the last 30 minutes. Tap into the city system if you have to. I want every face. Every car. Dario. Now. His voice was thunder. Hours passed. Then a ping. A lead. A van. Unmarked. Turned onto 5th and disappeared under the bridge. Dario stared at the footage. Saw her arm move once. And something inside him snapped. Warehouse. Docks. 247A. Sienna came to tied to a chair. Her face stung, lips split, blood dried under her nose. She blinked through the haze. 3 men. All armed. The one in the middle stepped closer. You're prettier up close. She said nothing. Here's the thing, we don't care who you are, we care who you belong to. He grabbed her chin. You're Vascari's little toy, yeah? She jerked her face away. You think he'll burn down the city for you? He laughed. He's not coming. Then you don't know him. They underestimated her. Thought she was just a girl in a dress. Didn't know she'd spent years hiding behind silence, surviving on instincts sharper than razors. He's already coming, she whispered. What? You should run. They laughed. That's when the power cut. The warehouse went black. A heartbeat of silence. Then the sound of boots. And a voice like death. Let her go. Gunshots exploded. Chaos. 2 of the men turned toward the shadows. One dropped instantly, bullet between the eyes. The other tried to run. Didn't get far. Dario emerged from the dark like a phantom in a black coat and eyes full of fire. He didn't speak. Didn't flinch. Just executed. 1 shot. 2. Only 1 man left standing now. The one who slapped her. He dropped his weapon. Hands up. Look, I didn't touch her like that, I swear. You think that's why I'm here? Dario walked slowly. You put hands on what's mine. She's not your. She was mine before I even touched her. He pulled the trigger. The man dropped. Then silence. Only the sound of Sienna's breathing and Dario's boots on the concrete. He knelt in front of her, hands shaking. He pulled the gag from her mouth. Cut the ropes. She collapsed forward into his arms. Her voice was raw. You came. He held her tighter than he ever had. You're not my cover anymore. They didn't speak on the ride home. He held her in the back seat like she might disappear if he blinked. She didn't pull away. Didn't ask questions. Just watched the way his jaw clenched and unclenched. Like he wasn't just angry. He was terrified. Back at the penthouse, he carried her in. Tended to her cuts himself. Wiped blood from her cheek with trembling hands. Why? She asked quietly. Why what? Why do you care? He didn't answer at first. Just stared at her like she'd asked a question with no answer. Then he said, because the second you walked away, I stopped recognizing myself. Later that night, she stood in his doorway, wearing one of his shirts. Face soft in the moonlight. He didn't move. Didn't speak. She just walked over, sat beside him on the edge of the bed, and whispered, You're right. He turned. About what? This doesn't end until you say. She looked at him. Eyes wet. Voice steady. So don't say it. Sienna lay still in his bed, wrapped in sheets and silence. Her body ached. Not from pain, but from the come down of adrenaline, fear, relief. It was all crashing down now. The aftermath. The realization that she could have died. And he'd come for her. No hesitation. No warning. Just fire and violence, and a voice that promised death to anyone who touched her. She turned her head. Dario stood near the window, shirtless, the city lights cutting across the sharp lines of his back like blades. She sat up slowly. You haven't said anything. Neither have you. I'm waiting for you. He didn't move. What do you want me to say? He asked. The truth. He turned then. Eyes tired, hollowed out by something far older than fatigue. I don't remember the last time I told anyone the truth. Start now. He walked over, sat on the edge of the bed but didn't look at her. I was raised to believe loyalty is everything. That power is safer than love. That control is the only thing between survival and death. He exhaled, jaw flexing. And then you walked into my life. You were supposed to be nothing. A name on a file. A girl who wouldn't ask questions. I was. But you saw everything. He looked at her finally. You saw me. The real me. And you didn't run. No, she whispered. I didn't. You made me question things I never let myself feel, made me remember things I buried. And the worst part? He laughed bitterly. You didn't even mean to. Sienna reached for his hand. He let her. She threaded her fingers through his. I was supposed to be invisible, she said softly. Background noise. A safe pick, a girl with no past. No future. He looked at her like she was something sacred. You were never invisible, Sienna. Then why does it feel like I don't exist outside of you anymore? The vulnerability in her voice nearly gutted him. Because you've lived your whole life hiding, he said. And now someone sees you. She blinked fast. And what happens when the deal ends? It already ended. Then what is this? He pulled her hand to his chest, over his heart. This is the only thing that makes me feel human. They didn't kiss. Not that night. They just lay there, side by side, sharing breath, warmth, and 1,000 unsaid words. At some point, her head found his shoulder. His arm wrapped around her. And the world outside faded. The next morning, sunlight spilled through the windows like gold. She woke first, watched him sleep. It was the only time he looked peaceful. The only time he wasn't a legend, a leader, a weapon. Just a man. Wounded. Fierce. Hers. She slipped from the bed and padded toward the kitchen. Tea. Toast. Silence. Until Luca walked in, brows raised. Wow, he said. You're still here. Disappointed? Relieved. Why? He shrugged. Because I've never seen him like this. Like what? Willing to burn for someone. Dario emerged 10 minutes later. Clean shirt. Still damp hair. His eyes landed on her like he hadn't decided if he was dreaming. You made tea. You made war. Fair trade. She smiled. He stepped closer. We have to talk. She nodded. I know. They sat at the breakfast bar. The feds are coming harder, he said. My enemies are regrouping. Because of me? No. Because I'm not playing by their rules anymore. And me? You were never a piece on the board. You're the reason I flipped the table. She reached into her pocket, pulled out the old ID she hadn't shown him before. Her original name, her sealed record, her truth. This is me. He didn't even glance at it. I already knew. You did? I knew the day I picked you. She stiffened. Then why me? Because everyone else was safe. You weren't. He leaned in. You were dangerous in your own way. That's why I knew you'd survive this world. And now? Now I don't want you to survive it. Then, What do you want? I want to build a world you never have to run from again. They sat in silence after that. But it wasn't empty. It was full. Of everything they couldn't say. Of everything they'd already shown. That night, as they lay in bed, she whispered, I don't want to be a secret anymore. He turned toward her. Then I'll make the world remember your name. The world started to close in. Just like Dario said it would. Wiretaps. Surveillance. Informants flipping. Associates disappearing. The empire he built was bleeding from every corner, and Sienna could feel it. Not because Dario told her, but because she could see it in the way he kissed her now like he was memorizing her. In the way his guards doubled. The way he started walking behind her instead of in front of her. Like she was the only thing that still mattered. You're not eating, she said one morning at breakfast. He barely touched his eggs. You're watching me too close, he said. You've made it very hard not to. You're not supposed to worry. You're not supposed to care. They stared at each other. The truth sat unspoken between them. She pushed her plate away. Tell me what you're planning. No. Dario. The less you know, the safer you are. That was the old rule, she said, voice steady. Then let's make a new one, he replied. No more lies between us. That night, she walked in on him burning something in the fireplace. Stacks of cash. He turned when he heard her. Accounts frozen. Properties seized. I'm erasing every trace they can track. You're dismantling everything. I'm choosing you. You built this. It was never mine. She walked up beside him. Watched flames eat $100,000 like it meant nothing. You always said this ends when you say, she whispered. I did. So say it. No. He turned to her, fire reflecting in his eyes. Because I want a new beginning, not an ending. They left the penthouse that night. Disappeared into a safe house on the edge of the city. Luca handled what was left of the cleanup. The world whispered that Dario Vescari had gone quiet. Which, in their world, meant he was about to do something catastrophic. They came for him at dawn. Feds, SWAT. Black SUVs lined the block. But the penthouse was empty. Dario had burned everything. And Sienna was gone with him. 3 days later, De Luca's compound exploded. A single survivor was pulled from the wreckage. He was half-deaf, one leg gone. They asked him what happened. His answer became legend. He came for her, and he brought hell with him. Back in the safe house, Sienna sat by the fire. Dario leaned against the doorframe, silent. Was it worth it? She asked. He didn't hesitate. You are. Even now? Especially now. He walked over, knelt beside her, took her hand. The life I had? It was built on control, fear, silence. He looked up at her. But you, Sienna, you make me want things I can't buy or steal. She swallowed hard. Like what? Like a future. Later that night, they stood outside under the stars. The air was clean, quiet. Sienna turned to him. What happens now? He didn't answer. Just pulled something from his coat pocket. A ring. Simple. Silver. Elegant. I can't give you safety, he said. Or normal. Or peace. I don't need any of that. Then I can give you this. He didn't get on one knee. Didn't need to. Marry me. For real this time. She stared at him. Not because she was unsure, but because the girl she used to be, the one who changed her name, hit her record, believed she was forgettable, had just watched the most dangerous man in the city throw away everything. Just to keep her. She took the ring. Only if you make me one promise. Anything. No more rules. He kissed her like it was the last time he'd ever breathe. And when they finally pulled apart, he whispered, "This was never just a cover, Sienna. You were always the story."